Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on that classic wooden motor cruiser currently here in Vancouver, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it and others up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. Well, yes, summer cruising has begun, and I have made my first stop here in Vancouver to see some friends before heading north up into Desolation Sound, and that's going to be a really great trip, which I undertake tomorrow. It's pouring rain today, but it really hasn't been that bad the last couple of days, and it was really nice to catch up with some old friends here in Vancouver. So this week, what are we doing? Well, to be fair, I'm not entirely sure. The main thing I know I'm going to do is I'm going to build at least the carcass, in other words, the structure of the new galley for MV Geordie. It'll be built, it won't be functional, but we can do something about that pretty soon. In the meantime, it's raining, I'm going to the pub. Okay then, this is a big day. Time to finally turn these 3 sheets of sapele mahogany into a new galley for MV Geordie. And I've opened up the shop, mainly this space here on the floor, because it's a lot of cutting panels, and the easiest way to do that is just set out my standard blue bin workshop and zing them all out using a straight. Yeah, I think you've seen me do it. I'll just whiz through it right now real quick. The one spiffy thing about this particular project is the plans. I did them on CAD on my computer in the forecastle here, but instead of printing anything, because I don't have a printer, I simply emailed myself a PDF, and my phone here will be my set of plans. Love it. I'm a paperless office finally. Now, you're probably going to ask about these notches in here. Well, the cabinets actually go this way against the side of the boat, And if you remember where the boat works, the hull of the boat comes up and then it comes in for the deck to the cabin side here. Well, what this does is it gets to take advantage of a little more space underneath the decks. You'll see when we start to put the cabinets in. But in the meantime, let's put some together. I did lefts and rights because I want the sapele in. Now, you may say, because the outside is not very nice, you may say, why did you even bother with sapele at all? Well, I'm going to see into some of these cabinets, and I'd rather it wasn't crummy plywood. And the truth is, even though I'm not really showing off the sapele very well, it's still pretty good ply, and I thought that's what I'd do. The downside of it is to get good economy out of the sheets, you'll see that the grain is actually running horizontal. Well, that's because the cabinets are currently the other way. So it would have been nicer if the grain was vertical, but I'm not gonna get that wound up about it. Okay. To do this job, I bought a couple more bar clamps, and they are ROK. I've never actually bought ROK gear before, and they seemed really nice. The lever was metal. I mean, it seems like a nice action. The latch action on the swappable, endable, clampable thing, which some people seem to find interesting, is nice. Here's the problem with it. The jaws don't pivot at all. That's just loose, not pivoting. Now, if I show you on the Irwin, which is what I've been using all along, the jaws pivot. And the reason the jaws pivot like that is because once you clamp down on something really hard and squeeze, everything's gonna flex a little bit. And that flexing is taken up by the pivoting jaw. So you still have equal pressure top and bottom. If I take an example of a piece of wood here, I'll clamp this in, and I clamp it really tight, and it's still clamped equally at the top and the bottom, and it's good. Okay, with these ROKs, rock, whatever the heck they are, we'll bring that in, clamp that on, line it up equal, and give it a real good squeeze. And what's happening now is I can actually twist this because it's only clamped at the bottom edges of the two pads there, because the pad will not pivot. I'm not saying these are crappy, but they're not very good. Okay, so this is quite a narrow cabinet, as large as it looks right now. This is actually the first cabinet on the right, which is a stack of drawers. So that will go down there. We'll put that on in a minute. And let's put this one on here. Now, I'm going to glue these. I'm going to glue these with construction adhesive, PL. And I'm using actually the premium one. Now, it's very likely that I'll get some bleed out. Well, on the inside, it's no problem because I'm actually going to put a fillet of PL on the inside, which I'll clean up with my finger, because this is the inside of kitchen cabinetry. It's going to be varnished, and I wouldn't mind a little fillet in the corners just for wiping it out in the future. I really don't mind if I see a little brown fillet in there. It doesn't bother me one little bit. Okay, so let's start putting some. I'm right-handed. I'm going to start this way just to make life a little bit easier. I think I have everything I need. Screw gun, screw, drill, screw, everything. Okay, all right, off we go. And a little PL. Now, before I get too excited, I'm going to show you a new toy that might be cool or might be completely useless. I have never ever considered buying any of these little corner clampy thingies before, and well, I didn't really consider it for this either, but it just jumped out at me at Home Depot, and I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. What it does is it holds everything in place for me while I put the other clamps on, and I don't know, let's play with it a little. You crank this in, you crank this in. It's not going to go anywhere, right? That's nice and flush. I can adjust it by loosening this one and ooh, I kind of like this. I kind of like it. Okay. Okay, you know, I have two of these, but now that I've got it in the vicinity, I'm just going to clamp it. No, I don't like these. I don't like them at all. Dang, it's a shame. Okay. That wasn't me using my hand as a hammer. That was something else. This is screwing into end grain. Yes, yes, yes. However, with all that glue, the screws are really only holding to clamp. I'm not sure this was actually all it is. You never know. Don't like. I know, this seems like a very small cabinet. It is, it's a very small cabinet. Another nice thing about the PL is it kind of holds things in place for a few seconds while you get your stuff together here. Okay, you guys, let's try you again. How about I find something I don't have to use as a hammer? You pull on them and it pulls the pads right up. Okay, these are a total fail. Total fail. Yep. Erwin, yes. Okay, so that is super nice and square. May seem a little lightweight, but that construction adhesive will make this completely bulletproof. Do-la-dee-dee. And onward. Perhaps you're wondering why I'm not just using my 2 Irwin clamps. That's because I dropped one in the ocean. So for those of you who are taking inventory, that's 1 Irwin clamp, 1 tape measure, and 1 Olfa knife. Now you might say, what about this gangly gap here? Well, I will hold that together when I put a nice fillet in there, and it'll be solid as anything. The only reason I'm making sure that the back of the cabinets are completely airtight actually is because behind this is actually the bilge. This is the ventilation to go down into the bilge, and I would rather that air didn't go through into my galley cabinets. Okay, so the cabinet we just finished was the sink cabinet, pretty straightforward. The next cabinet over, super straightforward because it's the fridge, and I'm just gonna put my old bar fridge back in there, so it will actually replace a future built-in fridge cabinet. So we skip that one for now. The last cabinet over is where the stove oven is going to go, and it's a bit more complicated because, well, let me just show you. The bottom part of the cabinet is pretty much as normal. But because of the way the stove sits in it, it doesn't have a top piece because of course there's a stove at the top. But I do put another support piece in about a third of the way up to give a little more support to the whole cabinet and the stove. Anyway, you'll see it come together. Okay. Okay, you might have noticed that the grain is vertical on this panel, and that's because it is a very rare veneered both sides sheet because it is the last panel. So the outside of this cabinet is actually going to be visible, so I wanted it to be sapele. All the other outside edges of the cabinets fit up against other cabinets, so it doesn't matter that the outside isn't a correct veneer. Alrighty. Okie dokie. So we'll spread this apart a little bit. Just like that. We'll swing this in and we'll swing this back. Okay, now for all these beautiful fillets. All right, this is completely straightforward, crude, and it is what it is. Easy peasy. Nice. This one's a little more awkward. Okie doke. So what I've done, I put a little tape on this outside corner so that when I'm inside, it'll hold it and I can put a nice fillet right in there. And as for this corner, we can just load it up right now. Very nice. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Now I realize, of course, when I oil this, as I said before, that'll just be a little gray line, but to have that much structure and have that nice soft cove in there, whew. I'm only gonna just start the cut in this direction because I don't want a nasty blowout on the other side. And as for the sink, well, I bought this lovely stainless steel little sink years ago in anticipation of doing this. And it's a flat flange that can be either over-mounted or under-mounted. And at the time, I thought I was going to have a soapstone countertop, and I may still, in which case it would be under-mounted. Anyway, so I've designed the cabinet to just barely fit in here. So almost all of this top piece of plywood comes out, and basically the side panels will come right up against that so it just barely fits. Now, what it also has is these very clever and kind of complex dinghy, whatever, clippy, hooey dinghies to clamp it into a regular countertop, which are just in my way. So I'm gonna have to make tiny little divots everywhere to deal with those, because I'm just going to bed the sink. And okay, so now front to back, where does it go? Side to side, as I mentioned, is pretty much a given. It's going to be jammed in there. So I think I'll put it pretty close to the front, keeping in mind that this is not the front of the counter. The counter will be an additional 1.25 inches from here, actually. So if I come up to roughly 3/4 inch from the front, I will then have 3/4 inch will give me the ability to put some structure underneath the front. If I bring you back in here, if you remember the way I also did it on Poem, I'll put a piece of mahogany in here that will create structure to make sure that that is plenty strong on the front. So if that's where that's gonna go, now where does the top go? Some of you will recognize this top, which I thought I might put on Poem, but it's really much too big for Poem. It was indeed the top I intended to put here. Close enough for me. Okay, the next thing is to make sure I'm not going to cut right through a screw, and I'm not. Oh, here I am. So we can move that screw and readjust them a little bit. And of course, I have no need for these ones anymore. This is going to be a pretty good indication of how well construction adhesive sticks, because I suppose it would have been clever to figure all this out before I built the cabinet, but I don't know, whatever. So here is that little piece of temporary structure. There we go. That'll fit in there, right? Like that. Okay, now in a perfect world, this middle section would just knock out because it's only held in with some glue, right? It's not gonna come off. That glue, no, it's not coming off. Nice, friction fit, beauty. Dang those little divots. So now I gotta mark them off and trim out for them. Oh yeah. Friction fit, nice and flush. Please don't go anywhere. This is not the Beer of the Week. However, it is a Beer of the Week announcement. From this point forward, the Beer of the Week will be a separate video and it will be accessible up here. And if you want to know why, just watch.